terms between Musar and Torah and how to define them. The great sage Rashi, he translated and defined Musar as the Bible and the Talmud, the cognate literature to the Bible. And he said that Torah counterintuitively actually represents unwritten, unrecorded wisdom. I'm not exactly sure why Rashi stood the plain meaning of the words on its head, but rather than dwell on that, I prefer to use a more literal translation of the two. And beginning with Torah, let's use Torah in the term as the way we understand it to be, which is the Bible and its cognate literature, because we know that in Jewish tradition we are not fundamentalists or literalists in how the Bible reads, but rather the Bible is read and understood and even translated as it is interpreted in the Talmud and in its cognate literature. And what is Musar? Musar is that transmitted wisdom. Perhaps it is unwritten. Perhaps it's a sense of judgment, a sense of perspective, a sense of understanding, an instinct perhaps, which has to go along when reading any text, when understanding anything or any ethical system. And in the Solomonic model, therefore, which is set up, we have something very interesting. It is the mother who transmits to her son the rules, the written, hard, fast rules. And it's the father who transmits over to his son that which is unwritten, that perspective, that sense of judgment. Alex, you're very fortunate. You have a mother whose integrity defined. Rules are rules. What has to be done, and it gets done one way or the other. And I'm here now, perhaps for the first time ever, trying to give over to you what is called this idea of Musar. And exactly what is it? But we have roots. There are roots that we have, because I didn't select this pasuk from Mishlei simply because it sounds good at a bar mitzvah, and it really does. But actually, it is the foundation of a life that was given to me by my father. Because that verse from Mishlei begins the Igeret HaRamban, the epistle of Nachmanides, which he sent to his son shortly before he died. And that letter, which focuses on humility, and I will get to that in a moment, was in fact the last piece of Torah that my father taught to me before he died. Lying in a hospital bed on chemotherapy, on a Sunday afternoon, his mind going in and out of lucidity from the pains of the leukemia and the chemotherapy. He had a few lucid moments. He gathered me and my sister around his bed. He asked for his siddur, put on a yarmulke and his glasses, and began to read to us the letter of the Ramban. He went about 2/3 of the way through it, stopped in the middle. He said, "I'm tired, I can't go on." Closed the sefer, went to sleep, lapsed into a coma from which he never awoke. That was some 29 years ago. Shema b'ni musar avicha v'al titosh Torah simecha was the last thing my father said to me before he died. At my bar mitzvah some 30 years ago, he spoke, of course, and he spoke about the concept of tzedel adorach, of provisions for the road, for the journey. Joseph, the viceroy of Egypt, when his brothers came to Egypt to bring provisions back to Canaan, to their father, the Bible says twice that Joseph packed for his brothers tzedel adorach, which literally meant food for the road, that the brothers should have what to eat on their way home. My father, however, developed that concept of tzedel adorach allegorically, perhaps drawing from the verse in the book of Joshua, which also talks about tzedel adorach, where it says, "Titen li tzedel adorach v'karosi mi bris." I will bring to you provisions for the road, and please make for us a treaty. This was nation building for the Jewish people, trying to conduct a foreign policy, and therefore tzedel adorach perhaps has some sort of different meaning than its literal physical provisions. And my father spoke about the idea of tzedel adorach that his parents gave to him. He spoke about a package that he received when he was a student in Budapest, a few pairs of socks, smoked goose liver, which was the family business, photographs, a letter from his parents expressing their tremendous love to him, telling him that they knew they would not come back from the hell that they were about to enter of Auschwitz, and instructions that in the event anybody were to survive, where they should try to meet, which was why it was so important for my father when he was liberated to get to the American zone after the war, because his father told him, get yourself to the Allied zone, whoever survives will get themselves to the Allies and hopefully be able to meet. There was no one to meet. It was my mother to meet years later, but there was no one to meet at the time. That was the tzedel adorach that my father had. But he gave me a very different tzedel adorach, and it's one that I want to give to you. He gave me that letter. He gave me that letter from the Ramban. And as I was reading it in preparation for today, I had to find some way to have it make sense to you. Because on its surface, that letter speaks about humility. It tells you don't be a gas ruach, don't be haughty, don't be cocksure. Concepts which apply in no way whatsoever to my son. Because anybody who knows my son knows that he has a sever ponim yofus. He has a beautiful countenance about himself. He greets everybody happily. A humility, genuine humility, never one to raise himself in a haughty attitude. What relevance, therefore, could a letter to be humble have? And I read that letter, and I read that letter, and I've read that letter. I've been reading it for 30 years. But I read it now in a way, perhaps, that I never did. Because the Ramban does not simply want us to be shefal ruach. He does not simply want us to have our egos on the ground. When the Ramban writes, "Veinecha yabitu lamata v'libcha lamala," your eyes should be looking down on the ground, but your heart should ever soar heavenward. It's a spirit of optimism. Roots. Have the roots that we are giving you, but let your heart soar with wings. Because there is absolutely nothing that can't be accomplished in life. And when the Ramban tells us, "V'chashay v'saldover koydem shetoitzienu bipicha," consider what it is that you are going to say before you utter it. He's telling us to be wise. Have wisdom. Consider your words. Know with whom you speak. The admonishment to look at every single man as if he is greater than you and that you have something to learn from him. It's not a matter of denying your potential. It's not a matter of negating that which you can do and that you can accomplish. It's an opportunity to learn from everyone and from everything that surrounds you. That letter gives you life. That letter is a charge to dignity. That letter is a charge to fineness of character and beauty of spirit. And that was the tzedel adorach, the provisions for the road that I was given. My father that Sunday afternoon knew that he would not be here to see me as an adult. He would not be here at my wedding. He would not be with me physically on this occasion. He knew it. But he gave me provisions for the journey of life. And this is the gift that your mother and I give to you today. Your mother doesn't know I did this, but I had prepared for you a copy of this letter from the Ramban. Take it, learn from it. The Ramban suggests that it be read once a week. And if you do this, he promises you, every prayer that you would ever have from God will be answered in its fashion. Take it, learn from it. These are your roots. And in these roots, you will grow wings, and you will fly higher than any of us can ever imagine. Mazel tov.